No carnival on the road.
Shaka, shaka, talk to me. In a happy family. Tell me when you're hitting one. Better get all undone. Now when I look at South Africa and the pain my race go through, lions smitten by the bogus massa. Deep inside I burn, oh my blood I moan. All I know they hit me too. Shaka, shaka, tell them when they lash my brother. Tell them that they hidden all away. Shaka, shaka, when they make we children suffer. Tell them, they'll answer to all away. Why? For we are family. One blood, one soul. To see all people free. One task, one goal. Shaka, shaka, tell them if they touch Mandela. Tell them, they better hit all away. I have seen the white man bleed, marching against apathy. Why Canadian youth protest in Canada? Free Mandela on the chest. No, my people, let's all join the struggle. Show your solidarity from the US to Caribbean people. Africans must go, apartheid must go, or we never will be free. Shaka, shaka, tell them when they lash my brother. Tell them that they hitting all away. Shaka, shaka, when they make we children suffer. Tell them, they'll answer to all away. Why? Oh, we are family. One blood, one soul. To see all people free. One task, one goal. Shaka, shaka, tell them if they touch Mandela. Tell them, they better hit all of them. Ulaba uchaba manje. Ulaba uchaba manje. Shaka, let your spirit flow through the veins of Soweto. Let your unifying hand cradle every Bantu man. Tell Tacha and Bota, stop the bullying. For we are family, one blood, one soul, to see our people free, one task, one goal. Shaka, shaka, tell them if they touch Mandela. Tell them, they better all of it. Kulaba uchaba mante. Kulaba uchaba mante. Kulaba uchaba mante. One.
Oh, tell them. We are one family. Tell them if they touch Norton, they're touching all of we. If they touch Nigel, they're touching all of we. If they touch Amanza, they're touching all of we. If they touch Ogunse, they're touching all of we. If they touch Vincent, they're touching all of we. If they touch Simona, they're touching all of we. Because we are one family, one blood, one soul. Bali, Shaka, Shaka. Shaka the warrior. Shaka, tell them we are one family. If you lash my sister, you're lashing all of we. If you lash my brother, you're lashing all of we. Good evening. Monday night, Monday evening. We are one family, one blood, one soul. History moves on. History moves on as it must. As it must. The struggle for dignity, the struggle for justice, the struggle for equality goes on. God bless me with two eyes. Sometimes you got to look through the black eye. Sometimes you have to look through the poor man's eye. Sometimes you got to bring all the eyes together. Race, gender, class. There's a campaign to still the black voice. To still the black voice. A campaign to still the black voice. No, says Martin Carter, I will not still my voice. I have too much to claim. So if you see me looking at your hands or listening when you speak, know that I look for fire. I've learned from books, dear brothers and sisters, of men who could not die, for death was far too poor. Of men who did not sleep to dream, but dream to change the world. Tell them when they killed Adriana, they lash all of we, for we are family. Shaka, we're calling on the spirit of Shaka. They're trying to write history. They're trying to muzzle the black voice. We have plenty voice, you know. We just say, you know, you're talking spirits. We come from a culture of spirits. Sometimes the black voice has to soar to the top. Sometimes the poor man's voice has to soar to the top. Sometimes the female voice has to soar to the top. Let us tolerate the female voice. Let us tolerate the poor man's voice. But they're afraid of the black voice. the black voice. And that is why I say, thank God for making me black. I owe no apology. I thank God for many things. I thank God for making me Guyanese. I thank God for making me West Indian, Caribbean. And I thank God for making me black. I'm not leaving that out. They want to silence the black voice. They want to silence the black voice. But I'm not allowing them to. Thank God for making me black. Share the link. Let everyone know that we are ready to roll tonight. We're ready to roll tonight. Ignorance and hypocrisy. We're ready to roll tonight. Ignorance and hypocrisy. We are ready to roll.
Dedicated to my friend Mamba Upe Koju for the inspiration given and for his love of Africa.
This is Caribbean Vibe.
Mamba, just 10 years old, in history class was told of the great African civilization. Kneeling before his bed, that night his prayers he said, and now we thank God for the knowledge his teacher had shared. Mamba prayed, I thank thee, dear Lord, for the African race, the first man on earth you here place. I learned that Africans taught the Greeks and Romans and civilized all Europeans. I learned from my teacher that Ethiopia was the cradle of man's culture. Their iron smelting had its origin. Thanks for letting me know these facts. Yeah, Lord, I thank thee for making me black. As Mamba said his prayers, down his cheeks ran the tears. For Mamba remembered how black slaves suffered. Though slavery made him sad, yet Mamba's mind felt glad. For the pain was destroyed by the great things that people had. Mamba prayed, I thank thee, dear Lord, for Egypt and Nubia, and for Kush, Mali and Ghana. Their art forms and sculpture, their great architecture, mine eyes have not seen such wonder. I learned of Black Moses and Akhenaten and Imhotep the physician. Oh, what great heroes were those black pharaohs. Thanks for letting me know these facts. Yeah, Lord, I thank you for making me black.
This is Caribbean Vibe.
then bowed his head, beseeching God's blessings on great African kings. He asked God to inspire the modern day world leader, so that they would become as great as Mansa Musa. Mwamba prayed, I thank thee, dear Lord, for great African kings like the Dahomian Shah, the Hansin, Shaka, that great Zulu, Askia of Timbuktu, from the Ashantis who say Tutu. Yes, Afonso from the Congo and great Chekwayo, Moshesh, statesman from Basuto, and from Nigeria, that Igbo Jaja. Thanks for giving me all them facts. Yeah, Lord, I thank you for making me black. Mamba pray for black youths, that they may know their roots and no longer feel ashamed of from whence they came. He told God his future was to become a teacher, so that more youths would know of the glories of Africa. Wamba prayed, I thank thee, dear Lord, for making me to know. Columbus learned from blacks also. Long before Magellan or any European, black sailed the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, the great max we did to build a pyramid was told by Greeks like Euclid. Bless my man, bless my class teacher for helping me to know these facts. Yeah, Lord, I thank thee for creating me black.
This is Caribbean Vibe.
I thank thee for making me black. That's a death sentence in Guyana, you know, to utter those words. I thank thee for making me black. Repeat, I thank thee for making me black. Coolie Brown said, repeato, teacher. I thank thee for making me black. That's a death sentence in Guyana. You get arrested and charged and last week in jail for saying, I thank thee for making me black. They'll send you to the asylum. Jack Dio said me mad. Jack Dio, I dedicate this song to you. I thank thee for making me black. Freddie Kissoon, I dedicate this calypso to you. I thank thee for making me black. And I'll say it loud and louder and louder. Ubraj Narain. You buy. May God serve upon you. Because as I say, you lie down in front of the hospital in solidarity with black people, but you're crossing the line. I dedicate this song to you too. I thank thee for making me, and Ubraj, you're going to hear it, and you're going to write letter every day. You poke me in my black eye, I poke my black fingers in your eye. I thank thee for making me black. I dedicate this song also to Jermaine Figueroa. He's a little boy that I like, but he just overtalk. I thank thee for making me black, Jermaine, and you black like me. You may be fair skin, but you're still black like me. And as Michael June said, and poverty is your legacy if you don't pull yourself up. I thank thee for making me black. And you all gonna hear it and hear it. Are you begging Norton? Oh, Norton. Oh, Norton. Oh, Norton. You're a good boy. David Hines a one bad boy because you say he black every night. And Norton answer them properly. Why would we want to take advice from our opponents? They're telling me, don't talk to black people. Go talk to crossover. You see what they do when they kidnap Adriana? They get she in the hotel and they tell the family, them, look up the road she got with a man. While they're looking so, they've been a one for drive she out so. And that's what they try to do with us every day. Norton, and when you're trying up with David Hines, he said disparaging things. Here is the disparaging thing I saying I told you tonight. Thank God for making me black. Thank God for making me black. Disparaging things. David Hines saying terrible things. I thank God for making me black. That's a headline I'm giving you all for tomorrow. David Hines on his Politics 101 show was thank God for making me black. Thank God for making me black. They're not getting away with me. If they touch Kidaki, they're touching Alawi. If they touch Sherrod, they're touching Alawi. If they touch Rickford Burke, they're touching Alawi. If they touch Mark Benshop and Lincoln Lewis, they're touching Alawi. If they touch Paul Slow, they're touching Alawi. For we are family. One blood, one heart. Who don't want to say it? I saying it for them. Because my mouth not get lock and key. My mouth, according to Martin Carter, is not muzzled by the food it eats. So I dedicate those two kaisos to Bharat Jack Dio. If I don't interfere with me, he learn a lesson. Ubraj, you buy. Your mouth a run too much. Teacher George said, I will have to put bip on you. Your mouth a run. I will have to put bip on you. Your mouth, every time black people say something, your mouth a run. You buy. Let me alone. You're me say already. I give you a pass because you lie down on the road for black people or with black people. But you sure get too big for your foot. You sure get too big for your foot. Freddie Kissoon, I dedicate that to you. Shaka, if you touch Mandela, you're touching Alawi. For we are family. And if you, Kissoon, I never sue nobody here, but going to sue you. You stop for 2 weeks. You don't tell no lie for me. Because I send the message to you that I'll sue your ass. And I want you to keep it just like that. You can talk about all my racial sermon that I just preach. Thank God for making me black. I say it loud and clear. And I want my people to hear it and say it loud and clear. Yes, Jonan, black is what? Beautiful. Beautiful. It's a part of the elites in Guyana. They're so hypocritical. They're so hypocritical. So hypocritical. Let me read a letter that some banner named Errol Passad write to me. Hi, David. I watch your program Politics 101. While in some aspects I find it to be informative and think you are very passionate about your race, I also find it to be offensive for its racial content. Now, hear this stupidness. I find it informative. So me get information that you're learning. And I think you are very passionate about your race. So that's a good thing, right? Right, Errol? But I also find it to be offensive for his race. But if I'm passionate about my race, what the content gonna be? Class? Ass? The content has to be about race. You see the hypocrisy? On the one hand, this man learning. On the one hand, he like me passion. But as soon as that come out of his mouth, I find it to be offensive for his racial content. But if I'm passionate about my race, what the content gonna be? It ain't gonna be about race. And what is wrong with racial content? At least you didn't say, I find it to be offensive for its racist content. Racist and racial error are two different things. Racial is when one speaks about race. Racist is when one believes one race is superior, and that is offensive. On the one hand, you like the racial content because I'm passionate about my race. But you find the same thing you like offensive because of its racial content. You see, this is the hypocrisy of some of our East Indian comrades. They know damn well that we are not racist. They know damn well that we have fought against racism all our lives. But what they don't want is for us to discuss race. But not what he says. He finds offensive the racial content, the same racial content that he learned from. The same racial content that he finds that I am passionate about. Me go to school with some very classical guys. One of them named Colin Bork from Canada. He live in Canada from boxing. When Colin Bork read a sentence like this, you'll give an F. Errol, you give an F. Because you contradict yourself in one line. One line. But there's a hidden message. What Errol is saying here is that black people must not talk about their racial struggles. Here it continues. However, in a multiracial society as ours, racism has no place. Our Afro brothers and sisters not going anywhere, and so are our Indo brothers and sisters. Good enough. The two major racial groups. Good enough. It's in this context I find your daily exhortation to exploit the racial fears of certain racial groups, that they are being discriminated when in fact they are the biggest recipient of favors from the current government. I find that to be offensive, and dishonest. I urge you to cease and desist from your daily racist commentary, as it causes more harm to that section of the population you're trying to mobilize and to feel insecure in a multiracial society like Guyana. Regards, Errol. That letter takes you all into the mind of some of our comrades, our Indian comrades who are supporting the PPP. Maybe they're not supporting the PPP. Now the man said, I'm exploiting African fears. Oh, African got fears. I didn't know that. He admitted that African people got fears. But I mustn't talk about the fears. Then he goes on to say, but they're not, they're the biggest recipient of favors from this government. Any African who got emails and WhatsApp messages asking for past Lamborghini, and you come out and expose it. You all are getting big favors, according to Errol. In order to shut me up, they're rewriting history. African people, according to Errol, African people are the biggest recipients of favors from this government. So David Hines, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. You get a peep into these chaps' minds. You know what they're concerned about? And it flows from, they are concerned. They acknowledge that African people have fears. They acknowledge that African people have concerns, but we must not express our concerns. Because if we express our concerns, it will make the country unstable, and the money, the privilege, the Indian privilege will stop. They are concerned about preserving Indian privilege. And to preserve Indian privilege, even if they may not personally be benefiting from that privilege, they do not want the privilege to stop. So the assumption is that black people are ignorant and stupid. And since you say anything to them, they pick up and go and lash up on your head. They pick up a gun, they shoot you. So David, don't talk to them about their fears. Don't talk to them about their concerns, because they're ignorant. They're going to start pick up wood and go and start beat Indian people. And Abina go get privilege no more. That is what you're hearing in that piece there. I get that every day. I get that every day. You start off by saying, you find my stuff informative, which means that you are learning. You find that I'm passionate about my race. So that's not such a bad thing. But then you go on. I must not talk about black fears. You know, if I come on this program and I talk about Indian fears all the time, they will applaud me. I used to talk about Indian fears when I first entered politics. When the coalition was in government for those 5 years, I talk about Indian fears. Indian people invited me, come better, come, let me show you what going on in our village. Just 5 years ago. Some of our supporters were angry with me and remind me to this day how I used to put lash on the coalition. But now the PPP in there, and I put in last on the PPP, I racist. You know what the logical conclusion is? The next time the PPP come out of power and an African government get into power, do not rock the boat. Do not criticize African government. If you see Indians suffering, say let them suffer. Because the last time, when they cry they're suffering, and you champion the cause, they love you. And the minute power get in their hand, and you start lashing their government, they call you the biggest racist. So, what should I do logically? When the government change in September, and Indian people start crying, not David Hines. Not David Hines to criticize the coalition government. That is where they're driving you. Listen, my politics is not that. My politics is wrong, is wrong. It doesn't care whether it's black wrong, or Indian wrong, or Portuguese wrong, or white wrong, or Amerindian wrong. Wrong is wrong. And we have the track record. When Burnham was there, we lash him, and lash him very hard. Some people said too hard. When Height was there, we lashy. When Jagan was there, we lashy. When Jagdio and Ramutar were there, we lashed them. When Granger was there, we lashed them. What is wrong with this government that we can't lash them? You know what is wrong? Is that now this government get oil money. And the Indian comrades who are licking me down, all they see is money and privilege. And they see people like me standing in the way of money and privilege. That is what is different now. So they want me to shut up. They imagine they're telling Norton who he must collate with. They want beat Norton, and they're telling Norton he must collate with. If Norton collating with a racist, as they call me, then Leffy lay lose. Black people aren't going to listen to the racists. Leave him alone. Leave me alone. Why you all begging everybody? They call Jermaine Figueroa to ask if you condemn me after Norton didn't condemn me, and condemn the WPA, and condemn Takumo Ogunse, and condemn Kidaki. After Norton didn't do it, they call Figueroa. Figueroa said the WPA has a track record. David Hines been around long. They make a contribution. They're intellectual and so on. But then he end. But David Hines been making some reckless statement. David Hines been making some inaccurate statement. This is Jermaine Figueroa. Jermaine, here is a reckless statement. Thank God for making me black and for making you black. That is a reckless statement for you. That is an inaccurate statement for you. These people feel they can always find an African to condemn another African. And they go looking. They try Norton. He ain't bother with them. So they go now and they start to, you see? And that is the story there. They always feel that they can find an African. They always feel they can find an African to condemn another African. And invariably, They always find one. Invariably, they always find one. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101. I dedicate the program tonight, the program, not the Kaiso, to my partners them in Buxton. Mojo, that boy, Rollins, Rollins Miller, that is a good name. He bad name is Mojo. Mojo and Basin, Macrebai, and Harper. Harper by. I will not call him Harper, I call him Harper. And Boomba and Newton by. I dedicate. Them by call me up just before the program. Cookie, you know them good. you know Mojo good and Boomba. Good evening to you, Sister Cookie. Box back dancer, my classmate. Them by call me up. Them by say, Doc, you're dropping back. You narrow the meaning of Congote. You talk about the cassava Congote. But you get the planting, that is the real Congote. And you remember they used to slice up them planting and put them on a zinc and put them out for dry. And then they used to make baby porridge with it. I did forget that. I remember the cassada thing they put out. Dennis Booker, you remember the planting? They must slice up the planting tin, they put them there, and then they pong them, and they make baby pop, as we used to call it. Well, no, pop is for big people. Or pop is for rice. Rice and pop does go, but plantain porridge they used to make for them picnic. And then by remind me of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Rollins Miller. I dedicate this program tonight to you all. I know you all watching the program. And hey, Mojo, when you forget anything in boxing, ask Mojo, you remember. We had one by name Emmanuel. We had two Emmanuel you had at boxing Milwaukee. One on that side, Lati Emmanuel, and then you had Emmanuel Cole over this side. And I forget Emmanuel. And my mind run on here a day, myself that by disappear. He used to sell barra. Well, you know when black people selling barra, and the barra is nice. When black people selling barra, you can't forget that because barra is Indian people who come and ride wrong and sell their barra and their balamacha and so on. Emmanuel used to sell barra at Boxing Milwaukee. So everybody will go for buy barra for Emmanuel. I don't know where Emmanuel there. Me said the only body can tell me where Emmanuel go away there is Mojo. And true story, me say Mojo Emmanuel. Mojo's Emmanuel go away Trinidad by. You ask Mojo anything in the village, you remember. So Mojo said, Denise, he said, you're right. Cheryl Barker, Cheryl said she had heard them boxing them in a long time. That Cheryl. Sister Cheryl Barker, good evening, my sister. Yes, I dedicate this program to Mojo and Harper and Boomba and they get based there with them by Macrae. If I Linden with either Cheryl, you will live in Linden a base them I call them now. You think dedicated to all the brothers, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith. Because we thank thee for making us black. We thank God for making us black. Yes, Jermaine or Jermaine, whatever you all call it, sometimes I don't know, these boys just allow themselves to be used. Black man, sometimes some of we always want a kickstart. Always, like we have to get a kickstart before we come to we.
That is wrong. And they want to kill me for that. You know what the song is? all you look for that. What I did in song is to tell so many black people who didn't go to the polls that they're wrong. And they want to kill me for that. You know what the song is? All you look for that. November 7th, I see black man cry. Look, blood still running from black people's eye. But I remember when a sunrise, African rise. And I beg black man, please open your eyes. While I was singing and busting me liver string, black man asking me where Atlantic lay. Then they put their 14th finger on the shelf. So today, black man, you must blame yourself. Cause when I sing, they never listen where Coco say. Black man's mentality gone Spectrum and PSA. Big lyrics I sing in, they wouldn't listen to me. Black man telling black man, oh, black man, come out to party. I remember when I sing Sham, we don't want it. The same black brothers say, Coco, you're singing shit. So today say, through my fault while you strike your hand. Black man, oh, you look for that. I wonder why black man always on the kickstart. Black man, oh, you look for that. A man on a charge for interfering. Black man on the still go and vote for him. Black man, how on earth you could condone this? Your daughter might have to work in this man's office. Can you imagine the sex if I had it? Quail fingers under your daughter's dress. Me saying that Patrick should have been served, but even Jim Baker would have been better. All them women who went begging the other day about this maniac, where all you have to say concerning this thing, all the silent and talking peace. So the office girls must be at the mercy of this peace. He was charged, so I die in the sports of truth. I'm concerned because I have a daughter too. I'm talking from my heart, I'm telling you, black man, oh, you look for that. Why on earth black man always want that? Black man, oh, you look for that. Remember slavery on the plantation? Master used to use a black man to beat black man. So when I hear 17, I got a pain. I say, oh, bad, black man go beat black man again. Because black man beat black man soup, but black man want harm. Black man intention is to pressure his own black man. He give them soup, they say he treat them like an outcast. So now black man takes smoke hearing in your hand. I got this on behalf of the African. With 2 seats pressed, you had the ball in your hand. And spoke to Leroy Clark and Safra Campbell. And up to now, them can't understand where we're done. You went and was knighted up in Africa. But to your black brother, you prove a traitor. If Abubakar return and the shooting start. Atta, oh, you look for that. And if your daughter cross the Prime Minister's path. Atta, oh, you look for that.
The mighty crow. Black man, all you look for that. Sometimes black man just want a kickstart. You know, we just sometimes get sway. You know, here is the story. Here is the story. Muhammad claimed that he asked the president, Irfan, and the vice president, Jack Dio, to pass the Lamborghini free. And they intervene, they override the GRA and he pay 50 million when he should have paid how much more million. And Mohammed is saying that the president and the vice president corrupt. Well, he's right. If the story that he's talking, and he showed the evidence on his phone, that these men are the two most powerful men in the country, and he want to cheat the government, and they help him to cheat the government that they are heading, then they're wrong. It's corruption. It's criminalization of the state. You're using the state for criminal enterprise. And so it is not surprising that people lend in solidarity with Mohammed. But Mohammed is trying to become president. And if, when he's not president, he begging presidents for favors, if he become president, is he not going to be open for favors too? Jack Dio wrong, Irfan wrong, and Mohammed wrong. Birds of a feather flock together. Black man, why are you always want to kickstart? Why sometimes are you not clean your eye and see? If he, Mohammed, feel that he got the privilege, which he has, that he can call, text the head of state and the second man, or some say the first man, and beg them a favor, and they give you the favor. Then if he become president, is he not open to favors? Birds of a feather flock together. Black man, why some of you all always want to kickstart? Why is some of you all waiting till nighttime for take fire stick for go search why you can see plain as day? Some. Not plenty. I think when Mohammed go in the black communities, people coming out, some of them think he come for share money. Some of them think he come for build house for them. They are responding to the celebrity, notoriety, and all of that. And some of them, they mouth. Or you get me support. You're saying you don't like the PPP because they're corrupt. And you get a man there who is part of the corruption. When you get a bribe, you get the man who giving the bribe and the man who taking the bribe. In the village, I would just call them 1 for 1. Y'all young people don't know what that means. We call them 1 for 1 in the village. Me not tell you what you mean. Now you big people gonna know 1 for 1. Some of our people get carried away. You get the one who will give the bribe and the one who will take the bribe. All 1 for 1. And you don't write what 1 for 1 mean. So one has to put this thing in perspective. Yes, the government is going after Mohammed, after them and he fall out. Which is what makes it more terrible. But Mohammed is not clean in this thing. He's not clean. And if Mohammed turned president People go ask Eve for bribe and he will be open to it because he obviously feels that that is part of governance. Black man, why do you always want to kickstart? Why you always want to kickstart? Are you jump out from the cannery and I jump in the fire? Are you getting yourself together? You all get yourself together. You all get yourself together. Ubraz Narain blaze me and Winston Jordan. Winston Jordan, who's no black nationalist, no black power, no nothing, but he makes a point that I happen to make too, which is that Kojo said Muhammad is no hero. Muhammad is no hero. Kojo, I agree with you. He's no hero, and we have to talk to our young people. You know, as I said, you know, our young people are a little starry-eyed with the celebrity thing and the big car and their dislike for the PPP, and they feel that on our side we have not been militant enough. I think we missed the boat. If I'm to be critical of the political opposition since 2020, is that we were out of step with our base, especially young people. Young people wanted a more aggressive approach to the PPP. And in their minds, Mohammed is giving that aggressive approach. But what they're reading as aggressive approach, they're not going beneath the surface. Once you go beneath the surface, you will see the whole thing is jumping from the cannery into the fire. I was saying about Ubraj Narain. He write a letter condemning me and Winston Jordan. For what? All that Winston said, and I said, was look, Gita Chandan, Daniel Siram, they were not PPP PNC members. Gita was in the AFC, and before that she was in the PPP. And she crossed over to the PNC for the 2020 election. Siram, I don't know where he been, but he joined, I understand, January of 2020. You had an election in March of 2020. And these people, Gita was sent to Parliament, the highest decision-making body in the country, lawmaking body in the country. She was sent to Parliament after walking in the party just a couple of months before or whenever. Daniel Siram was given the chairmanship of the largest region. They were plummeted, they were given those high offices on the votes of the coalition. The coalition got over 200,000 votes. The vast majority of those votes came from African Guyanese. So the fact is that Gita was sitting in Parliament on mostly African Guyanese votes. Daniel Siram was sitting as chairman of Region 4 on mostly African votes. In the same way that Kwame is in Parliament on mostly Indian votes. And Mark Phillips and Reverend Bishop Edgil, they are sitting in Parliament on Indian votes. That's a fact. That's a fact. It's a fact. I'm stating a fact. Winston is stating a fact. Now, we call it ethnic window dressing. And I'm addressing a part of the media, which I think some of them follow this program and they do reports, and that's okay. But I don't like when you all report wrong. All parties in a country like Guyana must be mindful of optics. And so it has been the practice that both the major parties would ensure that they have some people from the other race high up. Burnham did it, Hoy did it, Jagan did it. These are now doing it. It's normal practice. That's not the problem with Gita and Daniel. That's not what Winston and I are commenting on, because we recognize that you have to do it. Aubrey Norton is the presidential candidate for the APNU, WPA. Some people have been writing me and calling me and the WPA and urging us to ask for the prime ministership. And my first response to those people is that we can't have a ticket with 2 black men at the top. We just can't. Yes, people like myself may qualify in the eyes of some people to be a prime ministerial candidate, but the fact of the matter is you have a black man at the top of the ticket. And yes, if you put a black man as the second ticket, it ain't gonna look good. And in politics, looks matter. And I have absolutely no problem in stepping aside for a non-African candidate as the prime ministerial candidate for an APNU WPA coalition. I have absolutely no problem. It won't take nothing away from me. I have no problem in stepping aside for a woman, because if you can't get an Indian or Amerindian as your second in thing, then the next thing is a woman. So I have no problem in stepping aside for a woman, an Indian and Amerindian. If we can get an Indian woman or Amerindian woman, jump for joy. Because optics do matter. Because the optics, you're sending a signal that you intend, although you are elected on African votes, although you are an African dominated party, you are sending a signal that you are not an intolerant party and that you intend to at least have the voice of the other race at the table. So I have no problem with Gita or Daniel getting the position. Yes, a lot of people complained to me when Siram was chosen. And I understand it, because people said they work hard. They sacrifice for the party. And they ain't get nothing, and Siram walk off the road and get it. Gita was named General Secretary. A person who just joined the party. And she was named General Secretary, which is the top administrative position in the party. So she was a parliamentarian, and she had the top administrative position. She couldn't get it because there were people in the party who were as bright as Gita, who were as competent as Gita. But Gita obviously get it because she fit the profile of diversity. It's a kind of affirmative action. And so yes, she got the position because she was Indian, an Indian woman. That's a prize in an African party. Yeah, Kojo. I get to the diversity and inclusivity in fact. She fit the profile of diversity and inclusivity. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I am all for that. Like I said, I do not believe that the prime ministerial candidate for the APNU, WPA should be another African man. So I subscribe to it. That's not my issue. Here is what my issue is and what Winston Jordan's issue is. She goes to parliament, stands in the parliament in the name of 200,000 Africans, and she condemns the African party, and she lifts up the Indian party. She's saying to the Africans, thanks for embracing me. Thanks for giving me the highest position. But I love the other side. And I am standing here in your name and declaring to you, I am going over to your torturers. That is why I call Seram ungrateful. If you were grateful, you would come to your own party. And you must say, thanks. Thanks for allowing me to serve. Thanks for embracing me as I walk off the street and come. But I think I am moving on. Tender your resignation. Gita obviously had been thinking about this for a long time. Tender your resignation. Daniel Seram do the same thing. Tender your resignation. And then having tendered your resignation, then you can go out and lick down your own party and embrace the next one. You might have get a little rebuke from me for licking down your old party. But I would not have called you ungrateful. Is you stand there in the name of people. It's like people take you in when you're homeless. And then they take you and feed you, clothe you, house you. And then you stand up in the house and curse them and their mother. And go over to the enemy house. What is that? What is that? And that is what I condemn. That is what Winston Jordan, and you can say David Hines is Afrocentric and all the bad word that is used. But Winston Jordan is not. He's a moderate. Yet a moderate made that observation. It shows how the thing so barefaced. Up jump Ubraj Narayan. David Hines and Winston Jordan are being divisive. What is wrong with these chaps? It means that African people can't talk anything in Guyana about race. Ubraj is not a PPP man. Jagdio cussed the other day, he cussed back Jagdio. So he's not a PPP man. If you were a PPP man, I would say, well, it's bad mind. PPP want for cast disunity among us and so on. Ubraj is not a PPP man. And if that is coming, if a non-PPP Indian want to stop black people, black leaders from talking about the pain of their people, then you are as guilty as those who are inflicting the pain. Because you're saying to These people don't talk about your pain. Bear your chafe. Don't cry. Don't ginch. That is what they're telling us. And as I said, I am grateful. Some comrades told me, Dr. Hines, don't worry, that lie down, we lie down there. But I said, I remember him lying down in front of the hospital when they were moving, those mainly African people who sell in there. And I will always remember that because he didn't have to do it. Indian people don't remember when I lie down for them. They don't remember when I went to jail for them. But that's okay. I will remember when an Indian goes out of his or our way to stand up for black people. And so I continue to be grateful to Ubraj. But Ubraj, man, you're pushing it. You're pushing it, bandit. You're pushing it. I understand they say you want to leave the PNC and go to some other opposition party. I don't know. But if you want to, go along, man. But don't tell black people they mustn't talk about the pain. What was that? And then turn back and cussing Winston. You just tell Winston he mustn't talk about race. And then the next sentence you say, when Winston was minister, he didn't do nothing for black people. Well, then a race? You just tell him he mustn't talk about race. You just tell him he must not talk about race. But then the next sentence, you tell him he didn't act racially. He didn't do nothing for black people when he was minister. You know what Ubraj is saying there? He's saying, you all can talk about race when it comes to you all people. But when it comes to Indian people, you all mustn't say nothing. You mustn't say nothing about Siram. You mustn't say nothing about Gita. Because when you've been there, you didn't do nothing for your own black people. Well, then a race, you just cuss him for talking race. And now you tell him he didn't act race when he was in government. You all read the message. These chaps don't want us to talk about our pain. It's a serious development. It's a very, very serious development. One of the things about slavery was the attempt, with sometimes some mild success, in getting Africans to believe that slavery was good to them. In fact, I think in Miami, I think the governor there is now, I think, proposing some textbook to show that slavery was good for black people. And that is what these chaps are saying. The Herald one that write me the letter there, oh, the biggest favors going to black people. You giving them little by contract for 2 million and 3 million. And you helping Mohammed for rob the government 300 and 400 million. You giving them little black by $2 million, $3 million contract. By the time they don't pay workers and so on, they may end up with $1 million, $1.5 million. But you're helping Mohammed. You're helping Mohammed to get off scot-free by not paying 300 million. In fact, what you're doing is putting $300 million in Mohammed pocket just like the book. But yet, that Indian brother, Errol, will say that black people getting all the benefits. What are you saying? You're saying that black people are worth more than that. That's what you're saying. Is the caste thinking that if Mohammed gets 300 million, he deserves it because he's a Chatri. He's a Brahman. And if you get 2 million, you deserve that. In fact, you're getting more than you deserve because you're untouchable. You shouldn't get nothing. I don't think Errol is reasoning it like that. I don't think he is. But it is the thinking, the worldview that influencing him and others like him. It's somewhere in the mind. Is that we are a $2 million people. We are a $3 million people. And that is more than we deserve. For you to sit there, for him to sit there and say that Dr. Hines stop raising their fares. They're getting 2 and 3 million and that's good enough for them. He obviously know that 90% of the wealth in Guyana is owned by Indians and Portuguese. He must know that. Yet he's saying black people are getting the most. It's a thinking. And the thinking is a thinking that arises out of caste. Caste thinking. It's the same caste thinking that makes, and Nandalal could say, he a chatri. The caste, Ravidev does say, we get, he tell Guyana get race on the mind. He said, me got race on the mind. Well, them get caste on the mind. Ravidev get caste on the mind. And caste is as bad as race. In fact, those who invented the race system learned from the caste system. In black studies, we have what is called the color caste paradigm. So they got caste on their brain. And so when they think about us, the caste come out and they don't realize it because it's normative. That which is normative, you don't worry about it. You got to eat. It's normative to eat. So you eat. You're not committing a crime by eating. So to look at black people and then say that they are getting the most favors from the government is exactly that chaos on your mind. Dr. Jagan, God bless his soul, said a couple of decades ago that black people are at the bottom of the ladder. And people jump on Jagan. Quite rightly so. But what Jagan was saying, or what he intended to say, was that because of race, black people are at the bottom of the racial ladder. Black people are at the bottom of the racial ladder. And insofar as they are at the bottom of the social ladder, it has to do with race. He didn't say that. He just said black people are at the bottom of the social ladder, as if he's endorsing the racial theory that black people are at the bottom of the social ladder because of their race. And their race is the lowest race, so they're at the bottom of the social ladder. Because Dr. Jagan didn't want to touch race. He did not want to say black people are at the bottom of the social ladder because of race. Because of the legacy of slavery. He didn't go on to say that. And I'm sure Dr. Jagan intended to say that. But it's so difficult for them to, even Dr. Jagan made that mistake. Even Dr. Jagan made that mistake of just saying black people at the bottom of the social ladder and leave it there. As if black people were born to be at the bottom of the social ladder. It is not that we are at the bottom of the social ladder because of the racial hierarchical structure and because we were impoverished by slavery and colonialism. And it's the same thing with these people in Guyana. It's the same thing with the rulers there in Guyana. They think you have to give some special medicine to black people rather than be equal and equitable. That's all we're asking for. Black people need no special medicine to get us out of poverty. It is policies that will get us out of it. Policies that are equitable in their implementation and hopefully in the outcomes. But they believe that we need some medicine. They believe they will call you and give you $2 million and tell you go and get rich with it. Because it's a thinking. And so when they are trying their hardest to get me and the WPA out of the race, because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of our message to Africans. Our message to Africans is very clear. You're at the bottom of the social ladder not because you were born like that. You're at the bottom of the social ladder because of policies of slavery, policies of colonialism. And yes, we are telling Black people about their fears. We are talking to them about their fears. When Mohammed go in them Black villages, they're telling him about their fears. But you all don't want them to tell David Hines about their fears. You don't want David Hines to mobilize them based on their fears. Mohammed is going and trying to mobilize them based on their fears. Mohammed is going to Amerindian areas and they're telling me about their fears. Indian people are telling him about their fears. But I must not talk to Black people about their fears and listen to their fears. If I do that, I'm a racist. Well, Mohammed is a racist now. They fear our message. And unfortunately, some in the Black community, the Black middle class, they fear that message. You know, in the 1930s, when Black workers rose up from the Bahamas and Jamaica in the north right down to Guyana in the south, and they rose up against colonialism in what is now known as the 1930s riots. The brown middle class in the Caribbean, they said to the British, hurry and give us independence. Give us the independence, the brown man, the fair-skinned African, the mulatto. Give us independence. Because we are going to better manage the society if you give them, meaning the black-skinned workers, independence is trouble. So they made a differentiation between them, the mulatto, brown-skinned, fair-skinned Black leaders, and the Critchlows and Marichots and the other butlers, the other so-called barefoot leaders, they call them. And some in the Black middle class are making a distinction between themselves and those of us who stand with the Black and the poor. I would be insulting you all if I were to say that I am working class. By dint of education, I managed to escape that working class. I'm not working class, but my habits remain working class. And I stand in solidarity with the working class. And so in that sense, they see me as not worthy of their middle class because I don't have middle class habits. And so I am free to deal with the pain of poor people and Black people. I'm free to do that. I don't have to look correct. I don't have to sound correct. And so what the Black middle class do is very politely, they avoid people like me. You know, the AFC has spoken to all the so-called third parties except the WPA. Except the WPA. To this day, They have not spoken to us, the AFC. And I have good relations with AFC leaders. I have good relations with Nigeria. I have good relations with David Patterson. But they have not spoken to us. They keep far from us. You know, a quick song I will sing, I will sing. My big auntie say, you must marry no Maika man because he get leper on the bud. Because he get leper on the. My big auntie say, you must marry no Maika man because he get leper on he so and so. And that's how the FC has treated the WPA and treated me. All because we speak to our people in a language that they understand. And everybody knows Nigel has given yeoman service to the black community. He has represented the black community at international fora. He has done research showing how black people are dispossessed. But it's okay for Nigel to do it. Because I suppose he's middle class. He's one of them. I am doing the same thing. And they don't touch me. So the PPP and sections of the black middle class are agreed on one thing. That is people like myself and Ogunse and those of us in the WPA should be banished from politics. And we have to say these things. The PPP is working overtime. They already separate Nigel and Aubrey. And they're going to the bank because they figure that brings them closer to victory because the base wants Aubrey and Nigel together. But they're not together. And the PPP is laughing, kya, 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 kya. Now they want to separate WPA and Hines from Aubrey because the conspiracy is to break up the PNC, to weaken it and then break it up. So if you leave Aubrey and the PNC by themselves, isolate them, kya, 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 you already get the AFC not to go with Aubrey. Now you want to tear away the WPA because you know very well that the WPA's message is resonating with our base. It is the WPA who stood at the gate and said, you're not sending liquors into our community to buy votes. We stood here. And they bring down the hammer on us. It is Brother Ogunse who reminded them of a fact that the army who has to defend this country, defend you, you are busy making money. You're busy making money. And the people who have to protect the country and to protect you at night when you sleep, the army and the police, are of the ethnic group that you are marginalizing. And Ogunse said it. And they don't want that message. When your opponent is telling you what you must not say, say it more. They don't want the racial discussion. They don't want it. If a black policeman, they get catch with a drug sting, what the American sanctioned for the other day there. If that were a black inspector or whatever rank he is, they would have said, well, why else you expect from black man? Why else you expect from black man? But an Indian is caught The PPP must have known how they move them and send them some way. When the Americans now come out, they think. Look at Mr. Mohammed, the big man Mohammed. Stand up in front of the court door and curse critics and threaten critics violently. He go back to so-and-so mouth. He have one dog. Cuss in front of the court door. I bet you all, if I did it, they would have charged me for threatening language. They would have charged me for indecent language. They would have charged me for terrorism. But Mohammed, they're fighting Mohammed, eh? The government is fighting Mohammed. But Mohammed could go in front of the court door and cuss and threaten another man. And no police and coffee. You all understand what's going on in this country. Mohammed may be their political nemesis now, but he's Indian. And he has privilege. It's when you have privilege, it's privilege. Nigel Hughes could not have done that. Aubrey Norton could not have done that. Go in front of the court door. Cuss a man. Said, no, you're going to do it so and so. They would have fined 4 or 5 charge for Norton or Nigel Hughes or myself. But the Indian man, although he is their political rival now, he gets off. No police on visit yet. Black people, brown people, poor people, you all understand. This thing is systemic. This thing is systemic. Mr. Mohammed has privilege. And there are things he can do that I can't do. And that is the Guyana that we live in. And you all got to wise up to it. And that's why the PPP doesn't want us to talk about race. I am telling you all, the PPP is corrupt. But they don't mind you talking about corruption. The PPP is authoritarian. They don't mind you talking about authoritarian. They're going to tell you rig election, and so shut your mouth. They do not want you to talk about their racist policies. That is what they fear most. Because when you begin to talk about race and racial and racist policies, as I said, I don't know if Jack Joe is racist or not in his head. I don't know if Orphan is a racist or not in his head. What I do know is that they preside over government that is implementing racist policies or policies that lead to racial and racist outcomes. That I do know. And they do not want us to have that conversation. They do not want. That is why they want to tear us away from Aubrey. Because they figure that that conversation mobilizes African people to stand in defense of their dignity. And that is why they fear the WPA. You all take it from me. They frighten us. I said, Daniel Siram is ungrateful. One media house said, Dr. Hines called Daniel Siram an ingrate. Oh, of course they're right. Of course they're right. A person who's ungrateful is an ingrate, but we know what ingrate means in Guyanese language. It's derogatory. And so in putting that headline, here is a black man calling an Indian man an ingrate. They know what they're doing. That media house knows what it is doing. They do not want us to talk about race. They do not want us to talk about African. The PPP talks about race all the time. When PPP says sugar workers, no, that mean Indian. Look what they did to the sugar workers. Look what they did to Indian. The Indian sugar worker know that it's Indian they mean. It's called code language. It's called code language. The PPP talks race all the time to Indian Guyanese. They do that all the time. When they say Burnham, what they're saying to Indian, the devil. Because Burnham has been made into a devil among Indians. They've socialized Indians. Those who weren't born when Burnham was in office. You ask the smallest Indian, and Burnham means a devil. So when they say Burnham, they're talking race. When they say sugar workers, they're talking race. When they say rig election, they're talking race. Because they've racialized rigging. Racists do not like you to discuss race. Thief man like see Matty with bag. Thief man like see Matty with bag. You think loot there in a bag. Racists do not like us to talk about race. And we are going to talk about race. That's a tradition we come from. A.U.C. Guyana confronted racism and confronted the race question in the 1960s. He has been called all kinds of names. Walter Rodney confronted race before he came back to Guyana, when he came back to Guyana. I come from that tradition. We in the WPA come from that tradition. But we are not racial supremacists. I do not believe that African people are superior to Indian people or any race. I do not believe that. I also don't believe that other races are superior to Africans. I do not believe that any one party, Indian or African, can rule Guyana successfully. I don't believe that. Although I want the coalition to win, I am not sitting here to tell you that the coalition can govern and leave out Indians. We have to find a way for Indians and Africans and Amerindian leaders to come together and govern Guyana. That is what I am fighting for. That is what we have been fighting for. And that is why we want the broadest coalition. The broadest. APNU and the WPA, we have gone a long way. But we want the AFC. We want Simona Brooms. We want Nigel London. We want the broadest coalition. Mohammed is an issue because we don't know where the Mohammed thing will go. But if Mohammed were not sanctioned and not caught up with PPP corruption, I would say, yes, Mohammed, come on in. We need Anog, we need everybody. You can't be a racist and want everybody to come together and to govern the country together. A racist would want his race to govern. I never believed that, and I will never believe that. I will never believe that. If I were to tell you Aubrey Norton has all the answers, no, he does not. Nigel Hughes has all the answers, no, he does not. Simona Brooms has all the answers, no, she does not. Amans has all the answers, no, she does not. David Hines has all the answers, no, he does not. But when all of us come together, we will have a plethora of answers. And that is my politics. I stand up for black people, but not for black supremacy. I turn my face sternly against black supremacy. I defend black people, but not black supremacy. I don't defend black supremacy. I do not defend Africans who are in the PPP, denouncing them at the African. Those are not Africans who I defend. They're Indians on the opposition side who understand the African plight, who give solidarity to African plight. A G.H.K. Lal is blacker than Mark Phillips. He's Indian, but he's blacker than Bishop. He's Indian, but he's blacker than Kwame. My leader for decades was and is still Dr. Rupert Rupnaraine, an Indian. He always tell me, "Got more got children in boxing than me." Because he understood the African plight. He gave us solidarity. He grounded with us. I don't have a problem with Indian leaders. I serve under an Indian leader any day. But I'm not going to serve under an Indian leader who is going to marginalize Africans, who don't have respect for Africans. As I said, there are Indian leaders on the opposition side who are blacker than some black skin leaders. Some black skin leaders have black masks on. Black skins, white masks, sorry. Black skin, white mask, Frantz Fanon. So I just want you all to understand our politics. We are mobilizing Africans in defense of their dignity. We always have to do that because Africans are in the process of restoring what was taken away from us by force. Restoring our dignity, restoring our pride, restoring our economic place in the world. We are always doing that. And black leadership must put part of their activism to that. You can be Marxist. You can be multiracialist. You can be all those fancy things. But you have to set aside part of your activism to the process of restoring and liberating the African from the shackles of enslavement and colonialism, what Guyana called the scars of bondage. Healing. Because in doing that, you're healing yourself. And so when our Indian comrades like Ubrats try to tell us we mustn't do that, you're wondering, where do these people live? What contempt they have for us to tell us we must not dedicate part of our activism to restoring that dignity that was whipped out of us for 400 years. They who did not have to go through that. Who feels it knows it, Ubraj. You probably know it, but it's clear every day as you talk that you're not feeling it. You're not feeling it. I love my Indian brothers and sisters as much as I love my African brothers and sisters, Amerindian brothers and sisters. I must be, because I come from a humanist tradition. We come from a humanist tradition. What it is to be human No other ethnic group has had to confront that question day in, day out, what it is to be human. We had to prove our humanity on the plantation. We came off the plantation and we still have to prove our humanity. What it is to be human. And so we come from that humanist tradition. But because we confront things based on our experience, we operate what sometimes you see as chaos is order. And sometimes what you see as order in chaos. Chaos in order, order in chaos, Professor Rex Netterford said. And unless you understand us, you cannot understand why we protest, if much we try to build. Why we fight, if much we try to survive. Can't understand that. We sometimes chant down the little boys, them who rap in, who use the N-word. Martin Carter used the N-word in one of his classic poems long before hip-hop. Martin Carter in 1953 wrote, I come from the nigger yard of yesterday, leaping from the oppressor's hate and the scorn of myself. But some of us in our haughty middle classness say, well, the rapper mustn't use the N-word. But when black folk use the N-word, we use it as a form of endearment. When other people use it, they use it as a form of putting down. If you don't understand the black condition, you get mixed up. And my brother Jermaine, I like you, but brother Jermaine, you are bright enough to take time and think through, work through what you're saying. Work through. You can't want to please those on the other side who are trying to make you into a puppet, and you are busy trying to please them. Jack Dio and them would never stand me because I'm not trying to please them. Jack Dio said I should go see the doctor because I call people liquors. And 5 minutes later, he's cussing people but slag doctor. So he can call black people name. He can call Kathy Hughes low life. But David Hines can call people liquors. And some of our black middle class people get caught up in this attempt to be nice. That is why Malcolm X had said, don't turn the other cheek. Don't turn the other cheek. Martin Luther King said that he's not any firefighter, where people start their fires and expect him to out the fire. None of our black leaders. Marcus Garvey said the most important thing, the first thing is our skin color. There's a whole book written by Professor Tony Martin, Race Force, Marcus Garvey's ideological theory. If people dehumanize you for 400 years based on your race, another 150 years of colonialism, and you are going to use some other tool to liberate yourself, you are a fool. And black people aren't fools. Walter Rodney said, I would rather not talk about race. He was a Marxist. He would rather talk about class. But if people dehumanize you based on your race, you use your race to humanize yourself. C.L.R. James said the same thing. The only sin that is greater than class oppression is to ignore racial oppression. C.L.R. James, a Marxist. Black Marxists, black Christians, black conservatives, all of us have to confront the daily demons of race. And Ubraj, you got to get with the program. Our Indian brothers and sisters on our side have to understand that. Have to understand that. I strive every day to understand the Indian condition. I don't cuss Indians because they vote PPP. I understand why they vote PPP. And I'm not trying to tell them don't vote for the PPP. But I'm saying when you vote for the PPP and Africans vote for the PNC, let us come together and share the governance of the country again. Until tomorrow night, Dr. Henry Jeffrey is going to be here. Stay woke. Stay woke. Thank God for making me black.